Hey, Bree. Good morning, girl. Happy Sunday. This topic this morning is going to be Karlissa, mind your mother's business. That's the topic of the morning. I'm gonna tell y'all what happened, and then I'm gonna mind my business, okay? The lady from the T Pages called me on the phone.
The moment Karlissa's words hit the timeline, the internet froze like it just heard something it wasn't supposed to hear. Not whispered, not leaked quietly, but sitting there bold enough to make people reread it twice. This wasn't shade. This wasn't tough love. This was the kind of sentence that changes how people look at you forever. And once fans connected it to Chrisean being spotted in Compton, the story turned radioactive. Chrisean didn't respond with a paragraph, a clarification, or a calm explanation. She reacted the way only someone pushed past their limit does. The energy wasn't playful. It wasn't dramatic for attention. It was raw and unfiltered. The type of reaction that makes viewers uncomfortable because it feels too real to laugh at. Suddenly, people weren't watching entertainment. They were watching a breaking point. The wild part is how fast sympathy and judgment started racing each other. Some people said Karlissa finally said what nobody else would dare. Others said that comment crossed a line you don't even joke about. And right in the middle of it all was Chrisean. Moving through Compton while the internet debated her life like it was a group project. This didn't feel like gossip. This didn't start with Chrisean being seen in Compton. And it definitely didn't start with Karlissa's comment going viral. This started way earlier, back when tension was still being disguised as family differences. Blueface's mom has always spoken like someone who knows her words will echo. And Chrisean has always moved like someone who refuses to be spoken about quietly. Those two personalities were never built to coexist peacefully. The real surprise isn't that it exploded, it's that it took this long. Karlissa's comment didn't sound emotional, and that's what made it hit harder. It landed cold, blunt, and unapologetic, like a line drawn in permanent ink. People immediately knew this wasn't a slip of the tongue or something said in frustration. It sounded rehearsed in confidence, like she had already made peace with whatever backlash came next. When words feel final, they don't just offend, they provoke. That's why the reaction was instant and explosive. Chrisean didn't hear that comment as an opinion. She heard it as rejection. Not just of her, but of something far bigger. Context matters here. Because this wasn't said in a vacuum. The internet already knew Chrisean had been moving through Compton, already speculating about her mental space and emotional state. So when Karlissa's words dropped, people connected dots that maybe shouldn't have been connected. But once dots exist online, they always get linked. The timeline reacted like it smelled blood in the water. Screenshots spread faster than explanations ever could. Clips got reposted without context, captions got more aggressive, and suddenly everyone was an expert on family trauma. Some viewers framed Karlissa as brutally honest. Others accused her of emotional cruelty. But no matter which side they picked, everyone agreed on one thing. That comment changed the temperature of the entire situation. Chrisean's response wasn't neat or controlled. And that's exactly why it shook people. She didn't package her emotions in a way that made sense for public consumption. There was no PR filter, no attempt to appear composed. It felt like someone reacting from a place that doesn't care how it looks anymore. That kind of honesty makes audiences uncomfortable because it removes the safety of entertainment and replaces it with reality. The Compton sightings became symbolic almost instantly. People treated them like evidence instead of coincidence. Being in Compton was framed as either defiance or distress, depending on who was narrating the story. No one asked why she was there, they just decided what it meant. That's how viral storytelling works. The location becomes part of the character arc whether it's relevant or not. Karlissa's silence after the backlash didn't cool things down, it made them worse. Silence in moments like this isn't neutral, it's interpreted. Some saw it as standing firm. Others saw it as indifference. Either way, it gave the internet room to project motives that may or may not exist. Once people start filling in your silence, you lose control of the story entirely. What really escalated things was how personal the discourse became. Viewers stopped talking about actions and started attacking character. Chrisean wasn't just criticized, she was psychoanalyzed by strangers. Karlissa wasn't just questioned, she was turned into a symbol of cold family dynamics. The conversation drifted away from facts and into emotional territory that nobody involved consented to. Older clips resurfaced like receipts pulled from a dusty folder. Every past disagreement, every argument, every uncomfortable interview got recycled to support whatever narrative someone wanted to push. Context disappeared completely. The past was rewritten to fit the present outrage. Once history gets weaponized online, there's no winning, only surviving. Chrisean supporters argued that this was the final straw in a long line of disrespect. They pointed out how often she's been spoken about instead of spoken to. Critics argued that her reactions only prove why boundaries were drawn in the first place. Both sides spoke loudly, but neither side spoke gently. Empathy became conditional, handed out only if it supported your stance. The most unsettling part was how normal this all felt to viewers. People weren't shocked that a family conflict turned ugly online, they expected it. That expectation says more about the culture than the individuals involved. When audiences anticipate breakdowns instead of resolution, it changes how stories unfold. Chaos stops being an accident and starts feeling inevitable. Behind the noise, the situation was already causing real consequences. Relationships tighten or loosen depending on perceived loyalty. Neutral parties quietly stepped back to avoid being dragged in. Even people who had nothing to do with the comment felt the ripple effects. That's the hidden cost of viral moments. They don't just hit the target, they hit everyone nearby. By the end of this phase, it was clear that this wasn't just about a comment anymore. It became a mirror reflecting unresolved issues that had been ignored for too long. Chrisean wasn't just reacting to words, she was reacting to a pattern. Karlissa wasn't just speaking her truth, she was reshaping how the public viewed her role. And the internet was already preparing for the next escalation, because once a line like that is crossed, there's no clean way back. Once the story escaped its original moment, the internet grabbed it and remixed it beyond recognition. What started as a comment became a headline, then a narrative, then a personality test for anyone with a timeline. People weren't reacting anymore, they were performing reactions. Outrage got louder, takes got hotter, and suddenly everyone sounded like they'd been waiting for this moment to unload opinions they'd been storing for months. Memes did what memes always do. They softened the horror just enough to make it shareable. Chrisean's face became a punchline in some corners and a symbol of pain in others. Karlissa's words were turned into screenshots with captions doing all the emotional heavy lifting. Humor and cruelty blurred together until you couldn't tell which was which. When people start laughing and arguing at the same time, the situation has officially gone off the rails. Celebrity commentary arrived right on schedule, because nothing fuels clout like unresolved chaos. Influencers with zero proximity spoke with absolute certainty. Some claimed inside knowledge, others pretended to be neutral while clearly choosing sides. Comparisons flew wildly, dragging in reality TV meltdowns, celebrity custody battles, and influencer implosions that had nothing to do with this but sounded dramatic enough to trend. Chrisean's every move became a headline generator. A post was seen as a cry for help. Silence was framed as guilt or strategy. Even unrelated actions were treated like coded messages. That's the trap of viral attention. Once you're in it, nothing you do exists in a vacuum. The internet doesn't watch you live, it narrates you live. Whether you agree with the script or not, Karlissa's name trended for reasons far beyond her original words. Old interviews resurfaced, clips were stitched together, and narratives hardened. Some viewers painted her as brutally honest in a world too sensitive to hear it. Others said her comment exposed a lack of empathy that can't be explained away. The debate wasn't civil, it was surgical, dissecting intent without ever reaching her directly. Public outrage split into predictable camps. One side demanded accountability and compassion, arguing that certain lines should never be crossed. The other side insisted honesty shouldn't be censored just because it's uncomfortable. Both sides spoke as if they were protecting something sacred. Neither side slowed down enough to consider the actual humans involved. That's how internet justice works: fast, loud, and emotionally reckless. Pop culture comparisons got more absurd by the hour. People joked that this drama made famous celebrity feuds look like polite disagreements. Others said reality TV producers were probably mad they didn't capture it first. The exaggeration wasn't accidental, it was survival. When situations feel too real, the internet inflates them into spectacle to keep from sitting with the discomfort. The Compton angle kept getting dragged back into the spotlight like a recurring character. Location was treated as narrative proof instead of geography. Being seen there was spun into symbolism, whether it deserved it or not. Some framed it as defiance, others as distress. No one paused to ask what was actually happening, because speculation moved faster than clarity. Chrisean supporters grew more defensive as criticism intensified. They argued she was being provoked publicly and judged privately. Critics grew harsher, claiming her reactions validated the concerns raised about instability. The middle ground vanished completely. Nuance doesn't survive in viral storms. It gets trampled by louder emotions. Once that happens, resolution becomes nearly impossible. The comment sections turned hostile, not just toward the people involved, but toward each other. Fans attacked fans, strangers insulted strangers, and empathy became a rare currency. Everyone wanted to be right, nobody wanted to be responsible. The situation became less about what was said and more about what people wanted it to mean. What made this phase dangerous was how addictive it became. Each update pulled people back in, promising escalation. Viewers refreshed timelines not for answers, but for reactions. The story fed itself, looping outrage into more outrage. That's when drama stops being an event and becomes a cycle, repeating until exhaustion sets in. By the time the internet reached peak volume, something else was happening quietly. The people at the center of it were being flattened under narratives they didn't fully control. Every label stuck harder than facts. Every assumption felt heavier than truth. And once that weight builds up, the aftermath isn't loud. It's crushing. As this stage closed, the energy didn't feel resolved, it felt suspended. The outrage hadn't burned out, it had settled into something darker. The audience wasn't satisfied, just conditioned. Everyone knew the consequences were coming next, even if they didn't know what they'd look like. Because once the spectacle fades, reality always shows up to collect. When the noise finally dipped, the consequences didn't disappear, they rearranged themselves. This is the phase where damage stops trending and starts settling in. Chrisean wasn't dealing with comments anymore. She was dealing with perception, the kind that follows you into rooms you're not even in. Once the internet decides who you are during a meltdown, it rarely updates the file afterward. Karlissa's comment became a permanent reference point. Not because it stayed relevant, but because it changed how people interpreted everything that came after. Even neutral statements were reread through that lens. To some, she was still the one who said the quiet part out loud. To others, she crossed a moral line that doesn't reset with time. Either way, the sentence outlived the moment. Chrisean's emotional response came back to haunt her in slow motion. Clips resurfaced without context, stripped of timing, stripped of trigger. What once looked like a reaction started getting framed as behavior. That shift is subtle but dangerous. Reactions can be forgiven. Patterns get judged. And the internet is ruthless when it decides it's spotting patterns. The sympathy wave thinned, not vanished, but thinned. Support didn't collapse overnight. It fractured. Some fans stayed loyal, others grew quiet, unsure how to defend something they didn't fully understand anymore. Silence replaced arguments, and silence online often signals fatigue. When fatigue sets in, attention moves elsewhere, but the label stays behind. Karlissa's role in the narrative hardened as well. She wasn't reacting anymore. She was being remembered. People didn't ask what she meant, they referenced what she said. That distinction matters. Intent fades quickly, quotes don't. And when a quote becomes shorthand for controversy, it starts defining your public identity whether you like it or not. Family dynamics became the unspoken elephant in the room. Viewers stopped speculating and started assuming. Relationships were mapped out like flowcharts by strangers with no access to private conversations. Any sign of unity was questioned. Any distance was magnified. The internet doesn't understand boundaries, it only understands optics. Chrisean's presence in public spaces took on new meaning. Every sighting felt symbolic, even when it wasn't. Being seen wasn't just being seen, it was being interpreted. Normal movement became narrative fuel. That's the cost of visibility during controversy. You don't just exist, you're observed, analyzed, and rewritten in real time. The pressure didn't come only from critics. Supporters added weight too. Expectations for growth, healing, and change arrived immediately with no grace period. People demanded transformation without acknowledging trauma. That contradiction is exhausting. You're expected to be better instantly, but never allowed to forget what you did yesterday. Karlissa faced a different kind of fallout. Her words sparked debate she never directly participated in afterward. Silence protected her from some backlash, but also allowed narratives to run unchecked. Some saw her quiet as strength, others saw it as coldness. Either way, she lost control of how her stance was understood. The broader conversation shifted from outrage to judgment. Not loud judgment, but settled judgment. The kind that shows up inside comments, tone changes, and subtle distancing. That's harder to fight than direct criticism. You can respond to hate. You can't argue with assumptions people don't even say out loud. Opportunities started feeling more conditional. When controversy becomes part of your name, conversations change. Even when interest remains high, trust becomes cautious. Attention doesn't guarantee support, and support doesn't guarantee stability. Brands, platforms, and partners watch patterns, not moments. What made this chapter unsettling was how unfinished it felt. No apology wrapped it up. No statement closed the door. Everything ended on pause. And pauses in public drama don't signal peace, they signal anticipation. The audience didn't move on, it waited. Chrisean's story didn't reset after this, it continued with extra weight attached. Every future reaction would be compared back to this one. Every emotional moment would be measured against this breakdown. That's how defining incidents work. They don't end stories, they color them. Karlissa's comment became something people referenced without even repeating it. Everyone knew what it stood for. That's when a sentence becomes a symbol. And symbols don't age out quickly. They get reused whenever a new conflict needs context. The internet, meanwhile, took what it always takes most: certainty. People walked away believing they understood the situation completely. That confidence is the most dangerous outcome of viral drama. It replaces curiosity with conclusion. Once conclusions settle, empathy struggles to survive. By the end of this phase, one thing was clear. This wasn't a scandal that burned out. It embedded itself. It changed how people watched, reacted, and expected chaos. The story didn't close, it paused mid-sentence. And in a culture addicted to escalation, unfinished sentences are invitations. Because when the next moment hits, and it won't be judged on its own. It will be judged against this. And that's how drama stops being episodic and starts becoming legacy. Now, if you're sitting there thinking this was just talk, you're missing the bigger picture. Words don't just disappear once the timeline refreshes. They stick, they follow, and they resurface when nobody expects them to. This wasn't a moment for entertainment. This was a line that rewired how people see everyone involved. And if history tells us anything, it's that unfinished drama never stays quiet for long. So let's be honest. If this made you pause, rewind, or check the comments before finishing the video, you're already invested. Don't pretend you're above it. Smash that like button like it just dropped a wild take you didn't agree with. Jump into the comments and say what everyone else is scared to say. Because silence is just another opinion online. And if you're not subscribed yet, you're watching chaos without a seat reserved. This channel doesn't chase scandals. Scandals trip and fall right into our feed. When the next comment, clip, or meltdown surfaces, you'll want the full breakdown, not a screenshot with missing context. Turn on notifications, stay locked in, and keep your seatbelt fastened. Because in this space, calm is temporary and controversy is always warming up in the background. This story isn't over. It's just waiting for the next spark, until the next leak, the next eruption, and the next moment the internet swears it didn't see coming. Remember where you heard it first. This is Celeb Sync, where the drama doesn't whisper, it echoes. Drama doesn't whisper, it echoes.